We're going to try and get started right at 1, but I want to make sure that the folks who are signing in get a chance to come into the room. So we'll get started in just a couple minutes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's public meeting. I'm Jennifer Reynolds. I'm the Director of Ecosystem Restoration at South Florida Water Management District. So in just a moment, I'll turn it over to Matt Edson, who's going to give us a proposal about this Southland Water Resources project. We're following our process for unsolicited proposals received by the district. We've provided handouts of a summary of that process. They were on the table outside where you signed in. There are also some in the table to your back left, along with a couple of handouts that P&J, Phillips & Jordan also provided about the project, and that's what's also on the posters. We will make all of those materials available on our website through the unsolicited proposals portion of our website, which is under procurement on the South Florida Water Management District website. And so we'll make all of that available following the meeting. We've also provided a copy of the criteria that we plan to use to evaluate this proposal. The criteria is based on the statute for unsolicited proposals, as well as our experience in planning, designing, constructing, and operating water resources projects. We won't be answering questions at this meeting, but you're welcome to bring up questions that you would like the district to consider in our evaluation as part of your public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment, please fill out a comment card. You can find the comment cards at the sign-in table, and so if anyone wants to provide a public comment and you didn't fill out a comment card, we can get you one and you can fill it out so that you can make a comment. Everyone here will get a chance to speak if you would like to. As a courtesy to others who wish to speak, members of the public are asked to comment only once during this meeting, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I really appreciate everyone's participation and your help in running an efficient meeting. We will open the public comment period after we hear the presentation from Phillips & Jordan. And so at this time, I will turn it over to Matt, who's going to give his presentation.
Take this out of here. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. Some of you, I think, have seen this presentation before. This is the same presentation that we did for the Palm Beach County Commission there. We took out some of the language from the conditions that we had to shorten this up in an effort to make this a little more efficient today. But I'm here to explain to everyone what the Southland Water Resource Project is, where it's at, and some comparisons. I want to make clear before we start this that there are a lot of representations of the EAA reservoir in this because we have no other comparison to go on. This is the adjacent project, so we've used that to make these comparisons. We are very much in support of the EAA reservoir. We're building portions of that reservoir now. We're proud to be part of it, so we want to continue that and make this complementary to that same resource. So the Southland Water Resource Project started development in early 2023. Actually, we started the first concept in late 22, got really involved in it in 2023. It's 8,600 acres just north of the A2 STA and the EA reservoir, northwest of the EA reservoir. We actually made a presentation to the governing board in October of 2023 when we first went through some of the public comment, not public comment there, but when we first brought it forward to the public. The project consists of 13 individual cells that we bring online incrementally as we work through the project, and delivers 120,000 acre feet of low hazard storage. The goal of this project is to get the first 20,000 acre feet of usable storage pump ready to feed in and out of the Miami Canal in under the first 5 years. So we phased this project in an effort to make that accelerated. This project is really centered around, when we first started, was feeding the needs of STA 56. Given the region that it's in, it could feed anything else that the district sees fit, possibly the A2, or anywhere else we need to send water south of the Southland project. Today, just to let you guys know a little bit about Phillips and Jordan, we are currently on several contracts for the district. We recently completed the A2 STA. I think we were substantially complete there. There was water flowing in that one. C51 Reservoir is one of ours. The L8 Reservoir is one of ours, the C43 BOMA project, and most recently we stepped in to assist in the C43 Reservoir project to help get that one finished up and get it online. Currently, P&J is the builder or design builder on almost 15,000 acres of stormwater treatment area in the state of Florida, both north and south of the lake. For some of you who don't know, we're also right now in design on the Okeechobee STA north of the lake, which I think will end up being about 4,600 acres of treatment. Specific to the Southland project, because it's in such a critical region, Phillips and Jordan hired and enlisted all of the same engineers, scientists, biologists, everything that was associated with anything that we could find with the A2 STA and the EA reservoir. We wanted to make sure that when we built this reservoir that we didn't have any other conflicts or prevent any harm to the A2, the EA reservoir or the A2 STA. So the only way to do that and have that data was to hire those engineers and bring those in as part of that team. That was fairly critical for us to make sure there were no questions going forward. The project team that's on this has been on this project since 2023. Most of them have been on this in this region for over 5 years. And we know this geology, we know this region, we know how to manage the water in this area. Like I said, we've been working for the district for multiple years now, and this has been a region we've been in for quite some time, so it's very familiar to us. From a community standpoint in this region, this project creates 100 to 140 full-time positions depending on what phase of construction we're in. These positions all include, training. They could come in green, we could train them, it could come experience, they could come in. They all have educational opportunities for growth, benefits, retirement benefits. These are the type of the jobs that last generationally. These are 20-year type jobs. You could hire here and be retired here. So that's a big benefit to the local community. We are committed, as we have been in the past, to continuing to reach out to the local communities through job fairs and other events that we've had here to continue to hire local and keep these employees local to the region. That's huge to a local economy. If they work here, they make their money here, they grow here, they stay here. That's a big deal for us. For us, this region has been vitally important for employment opportunities because we couldn't do it without this region. Everything we do here from LaBelle, the Tri-Southeast region, Belglade, all through here, we have to have the people of this community. On top of that, Southland also provides an annual revenue of about $300,000 a year environmental resource fees to Palm Beach County, and that's a steady revenue year over year. We also, to help two aspects of the state of Florida, provide the aggregate that we don't use to build the reservoir itself, the embankments, the levees, the roads, the access roads. What we do is we send that to the rest of the state. It goes on the market. That's how we kind of make our returns and make payroll, quite honestly, for the project to keep things moving. That's how we provide a better value of per acre storage than most of any of the other projects. Currently, we have our South Florida Water Management letter of identification. That was issued earlier in the year. We have our letter of no apparent concern from FDEP, and just recently received word that we do have our ERP permit being advertised as of today. We did receive the zoning recommendation of approval, and after that recommendation went to Palm Beach County, we did receive the commission vote that we were approved to move forward with our conditional use permits. Project location. The project is located on the Miami Canal, south of Lake Okeechobee, north of the A2 STA and the EA reservoir, east of STA 56, and north, if we had to feed water to the A2 STA or any of the others as a district saw fit or anybody saw fit, they would have the ability to do so. A little closer in on here, as we talked about earlier, the Southland Reservoir is northwest of the EA reservoir. We only touch about 4,500 feet adjacent to the EA reservoir in this region. That's northwest corner, and that's one of the last cells that will go in that corner. So going forward, there's still a chance to make modifications to this buffer zone. We're still a long way from home on this reservoir. So, there's been a misconception that, we go through these meetings and have these meetings today. We went through commission that we're going to break ground on Monday, and that is not in fact true in any way. We've got a long way to go. Our project timeline started back in July of 2023. We've done everything from cultural resource surveys, hydraulic modeling, all our environmental assessments, the phase ones, the WOTUS determinations, the cultural resource, like I said again, boundary surveys, water availability analysis has been done. We have to prove we have water to fill a reservoir. If we're going to have a reservoir, we have to have water to get in there, and there is availability coming out of the Okeechobee. Just following up on the engineering timeline, if anybody wants to dive deeper in the future, you can have this presentation. I think the district said you were going to put this on the website too. So if anybody wants to go into the steps that have been done so far, the only thing we haven't added on here to date, I think, is our work with the Army Corps of Engineers. We recently had our first site visit with the Army Corps. We've been working with them for about 18 months. They've done their first step on the site visits coming out. They've taken all their samples. We went over the entire 8,600 acres with them, so they're very familiar with this project, both in the Jacksonville region and down here in West Palm Beach. Proximity map to the EA reservoir. It was important for us to make sure when we set out to build this project that we had plenty of buffer zone between the reservoir and the Southland reservoir, and include all of the same features that the reservoir had to protect us and that reservoir and the surrounding agricultural communities. So the reservoir that we have, the Southland reservoir is on the right, the EA reservoir is on the left. Both of these reservoirs have cutoff walls, and they're about 1,560 feet apart, approximately. We haven't done a survey for the installed cutoff wall yet, so we can't tell you where, but right now, per plan, it's about 1,560 feet apart. This is also a cross-section of the A2 STA from Southland to the right side of the screen again. The A2 STA is on the left, separated by the inflow canal to the EA reservoir, the seepage canal for the A2 STA, the seepage canal again from the Southland Water Resource Project, our cutoff wall, and then our reservoir. So there's been a lot of talk about blasting around the EA reservoir, and going through this is actually a drill log, or they've done some borings around the EA reservoir. We have the same geology as they do. It's almost identical on the Southland project. As much as blasting as we've done, every project in this region is going to require blasting. Everything from the intake canals, the seepage canals, the excavations that they have to build the reservoirs, they all require blasting in this region. For that, it has to be done by a licensed professional. P&J is not doing that blasting at all. We've never done our own. We're doing it on the projects we're working on now, the 10A intake canal. We had to do some of it for the A2 STA, and they're also going to have to blast for the EA reservoir. This is the interior profile, or the plan view of the EA reservoir. Everything shaded in blue here is almost 3,000 acres, and it's going to be blasted, excavated, and processed to a -6. To put that -6 in, that's -6 of sea elevation. So if you're standing on raw ground, on this raw ground where the EA reservoir is, or the Southland project, you're going to be basically looking into a 14 to 16 foot deep hole. From ground elevation on the Southland project, you're looking into a 14, 16 foot hole. Same thing. A big comparison, we've heard a lot of high hazard talk about the Southland reservoir, and just to compare the two, what standards are for high hazard and low hazard reservoir per industry standard on what we do. Reservoir on the left is the EA A2 reservoir. It is considered a high hazard reservoir. It is 44 feet tall to the top of the embankment, and impounds, I want to say 28, 29 feet of water inside. High hazard reservoir means that if it were to break, if this levee fails or this dam fails, there could be the potential for damage to anything outside. Property damage, loss of life, any of the above outside the reservoir. We are not a high hazard reservoir. We are a low hazard reservoir. We don't have the same embankment height. We're not impounding water to 28 feet or plus. We're only impounding water to about 4 feet north of, or above the existing grade. Given that, the bottom of the A2 EA reservoir is a -6. The bottom of the Southland project is a -8. And in fact, that's, believe, the same elevation as the EAA intake canal being to a -8. So we're not any deeper than they are, but more than a couple feet in some areas. We're pretty much on the same hydrologic plane all the way across. To do this, we started back in 2023. Water quality obviously is a big deal for us in this project to make sure that we have a viable project. We installed 4 separate wells around the perimeter of the project and started collecting data in 2023. That data tells us about elevated chlorides in the region, any poor water quality in the region, and any other samples or any tests that anybody wants to know. Most of the water in this region through that came back on the chlorides level of below drinking water standards, which is 250 milligrams per liter. Most of the checks that came in for us on our well sites were in the 80 to 125 range, so we were almost twice as good as drinking water. To begin any construction on the project, we have to install another one of those wells for every 50 acres of the project site. So as we're constructing this entire reservoir site, that water will continuously be tested over and over and over again from each one of these wells and each one of the cells. To give you an idea of what they are, each cell is 500 to 600 acres. You'll have about 10 to 12 wells per cell as we're building that cell. Going back from the processing facility that we have to have on site to make the material to build the reservoir or export, that is a completely self-contained system to do that. We're not bringing any reservoir water into the processing facility. No water from the processing facility makes its way out to the reservoir. They're completely separate. The water that we take into the reservoir comes from the Okeechobee down the Miami Canal into the project. It will go from that reservoir straight back into the Miami Canal wherever it needs to go. This is the phasing. We worked this phasing out because we were really focused on getting that first 20,000 acre feet available to the district, the state, as soon as we possibly could. And to make that work in the first 5 years, Cell 1 is smaller at 154 acres just for that region. Cell 1 is where the pump station and the infrastructure to make this whole reservoir function go. So once we get through with excavating Cell 1, we can then start the pump station, conveyance canals, all the appurtenances that make the reservoir function. And then as we're bringing that online, we can excavate Cell 2 and Cell 3. We will turn over Cell 1, 2, and 3 all in one phase. That gives you the 20,000 acre feet, the pump station, connection canals, all of the above to make this thing function. And then we'll incrementally go through each cell and tie them together as we go. Unlike other reservoirs, we don't have to be 100% complete before you get beneficial use out of the reservoir. So in this method, we can get 20,000 acre feet right off the bat, and then an additional 6,000 to 8,000 acre feet with every cell, sometimes give or take a little more or less. So for permitting wise, the water storage facility for Palm Beach County, we're not requesting to go below the minus 15 or water line on this one. There's no need for us to make that in this, make that deep in this reservoir. It's a type 3B excavation. We did a couple of things unique to this permit, just to hold the project accountable, everybody accountable, and let everybody know that we really are building a reservoir, and that's the goal. So we made the ERP permit for this project and the Palm Beach County permit for this project align. The reclamation for the excavation is the water resource project. We have to build the reservoir. If we do not deliver a reservoir space out of cells 1, 2, and 3, when we start, there will be no cells 4 or 5 subsequent cells going forward because we would be out of compliance. The county can shut us down. FDEP could shut us down. If there's any issues with Army Corps, they could shut us down so that they're all in alignment all the way through. By the time we get through with cells 1, 2, and 3, if they are not a functioning reservoir per our permit requirements, I'll say that again, there will be no cells going forward. We cannot leave an empty hole. We cannot walk away from cell 3 and say, hey, we're going to catch it later. We can't go into cell 4. We can't do anything until those 3 cells are functioning. We set it up that way on purpose. So our next steps, going forward for us right now, we got the zoning done. We're working through got the ERP permit handled. They come with a lot of conditions. They're not just handing out a permit and we can go to work. We have to satisfy every condition of those permits before that even starts. That means restrictions on the land. That means a little more engineering and design, more geotechnical work. We've got to continue to work with the district. There's a lot left to do on these projects. So right now, at best, we're months and months away, even if this year, of planning work to do. There's a lot of planning work to do with the district. We've committed in all of our presentations that we will work with the district to have some sort of water quality treatment technology component of this project, and that's one of the things we're looking forward to. There's a lot of work left to do on conveyance, how they want it to operate, how this whole thing's going to function. So there's nothing for us to go to work on next week. There's still time for input. There's time for community input of anybody that wants to ask questions. We're not going to work anytime soon. This project was solely developed in the location because it was a great location to feed and complement the rest of the projects in the region. This project doesn't do you any good to be south of here, be any further north of here. Where it's at was a prime location. That's why we developed this project, and that's why we began to work with the landowners in this location to create this project in this specific spot. This project is to complement the being constructed storages in that region now. You know, the EA reservoir, I think, is built to hold 240,000 acre feet. SB 10 years ago identified 360,000 acre feet of storage that was needed. This is the other 120,000 acre feet to complement those projects. That satisfies the 360,000 acre feet in the original study that was needed. That is what we were looking for when we committed this project. That's how we arrived at the 120,000 acre foot number. And like we said, we're going to continue to work with everybody here, work with the district, continue to work with DEP, work with Army Corps to make this the most highly functionable reservoir that you can have with beneficial use as soon as possible. We're not going to have to wait 15 more years to get water out of this reservoir. We'll have it in under 5. If there's any more to cover here. Stepping ahead of myself. We still have to work with Army Corps. Like I said, that's still going on today. They're actually issuing, I think, one of their first reports back to us. We've already gotten a set of RAIs from them. We've responded to that. I think we're doing another report here in a couple weeks from Army Corps back on any more questions they have. We still have to go through quite a few submittals with Palm Beach County. Your notices of intent, your building permits, all of the above on the site plans have to be 100%. The restoration program has to be 100%. The construction of the reservoir has to be 100%. All of those things need to be turned over incrementally to the county and DEP and then they review those final plans before we're allowed to do any work. You know, in conclusion for us, P&J as a whole, Phillips and Jordan as a whole, is, I think 80% of our work right now is in South Florida in the water or water quality space. It is vitally important for us to make sure that we have a successful project in this region. It is, you know, it's one of our keys to success that we have successful projects. Our reputation depends on that, and we're committed to continue to build successful projects in this region. If we didn't think that this would be beneficial for this region and the environment, we wouldn't have moved forward on this project. That's huge for us, and we're here to see this thing through. And also, like I've said, I've talked to Jennifer about this before. If anybody has any questions, we're here to answer. So send the questions to the district. Southlandwaterfl.com is another place you can go to on the website. There's a contact us there. That web address is also on the handouts we have. All of those emails that you send, I see them all, and we're willing to answer any of them. Whatever you have from a technical standpoint, please send them to us. So if anybody has any comments, I know we're getting into comment now, so take it away.
Thank you for that presentation. So as I mentioned, we're going to give everybody who wants to speak an opportunity to speak. So we have a podium over here. Ms. Libby Pigman is going to run our public comment period, so she's going to call off names. So if everyone could, again, try to keep your comments to the comment that you want to make, and but we'll give everybody up to 3 minutes. Just please try to stay to that 3 minutes so that we can get everybody through. We have over 50 comment cards. Again, if you didn't get a chance to fill out a comment card, but you would like to make a comment, you can still fill out a comment card and make a comment tonight. If you do not want to make a public comment right now, but you would like to send us a written comment, or if someone is not in attendance who would like to make a written comment, we are accepting written comments. We will have a written comment period of 30 days from today that we will accept written comments that have to do with how we should evaluate this project, any questions that you have that you think are important for the district to consider during our evaluation period. And again, as Matt mentioned, you can also send questions directly to Phillips and Jordan, and they've committed to trying to answer questions that the public has about their project as well. And so, Libby, the email that you send it to, if you have a written comment, is askus@sfwmd.gov. We will also make sure that that's easy to find on our website where we have the unsolicited proposal information. And so we'll put that up on there as well. Libby, take it away.
We're going to begin with Mayor Steve Wilson, followed by Mayor Joe Kiles, followed by Commissioner Robert Reese.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I make my comment, let me officially welcome all of you to our great city, the city of Belgrade, a population of about 20,000 or less. We take pride in letting everybody know that we're the community that help feed America in many parts of the world. We take pride in telling everybody that. Our farming and sugar industry is dire important to us. In regards to the project, I stand in support. I have with me today Commissioner Tequila Collins. Where are you? She's here. We also have Commissioner Dr. Robert Reese. Now, you know, when you think about the scientific approach, and I'm not a scientist, but it seemed to be going in the right direction. And I don't see why we will want to delay this project or continue to talk about, let's not do it. Let's stand together and let's make this happen. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon to each and every one of you all. Thank you for being here as well in the city of Belgrade. Today I have with me Commissioner King. She's here. Thank you. Vice Mayor McKelvin, Commissioner Barry, Commissioner Polk, Leandre Kim, my city manager, and our entire staff in the city of South Bay. I stand in support of this particular project. I'm the closest city from this particular area, 7 to 8 mile drive from where this project would take place. And you know, the thing about it is we come together as one to try to make sure that this project be successful, because due to the fact that we're in an area where the economy is, you know, it's not that up to par at this particular time period, but we feel that by this project coming to the Glaze area, will create the number of jobs that have been mentioned today. I think it will make a huge difference within the Glaze area. And I stand here in support of it and hope you will support it as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, once again, on behalf of our mayor, we want to thank you for coming to our community. Thank you for the concern that you show about our community. We stand in support of this project. We do know that some years ago there was talking about trying to take some land out of agricultural production in order to find ways of storing water. And this is a solution that will allow us to keep that land in production as we began to store this water. Again, listening to the presentation, it seems that we are looking at every step of the way. We're looking to make sure that this project does what it's supposed to do, but also that protects the environment in our community. So we do stand in support of that, especially with the creation of jobs. We need more jobs in our community, and we look forward to the opportunities our citizens have of working on this project.
Next, we have Ms. Janet Taylor, followed by Mrs. Lavita Holmes and Michael Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I'd just like to thank South Florida Watermen for giving us an opportunity to present these comments. My name is Janet Taylor, and I'm president and founder of Glaze Lives Matter. We serve historic Glaze communities, including Belgrade, South Bay, Pahokee, Clewiston, and LaBelle. I'm here today to voice strong support for the Southland Water Resource Project, not just as an advocate, but as someone who has lived, worked, and fought for this Glaze community my entire life. Our community has always been a place where hard work is honored, where families rely on agriculture not just for jobs, but for identity, dignity, and survival. We grow the food that feeds the nation, and we do so responsibly and with a deep respect for our water and our land. The Southland Project is a practical, science-based solution that will bring much-needed water storage to South Florida, help meet our region's environmental goals even sooner than the EAA reservoir, and create real good-paying jobs right here at home with a promise to prioritize local hiring because we need the jobs here in our area. We support Southland because it's about jobs, justice, and clean water for the people who actually lives here in South Florida. Please don't let outside noise drown out the voices of the Glades. We are not a playground for protest politics. We are families, we are churches, we are small businesses, and a proud community that deserve a seat at the table and a stake in the future of this project and the future of our communities. And we stand in support of the water source project. Good afternoon. Thank you to the board for allowing me to speak today. I am a Clewiston resident. My name is Lavita Holmes. I'm the executive director of Glades Lives Matter. And just piggybacking off what the founder has spoken, one of the main things that I just want to reiterate is that too often people have come to our communities saying what they feel is best for us, but we can speak. We have our own voice, and we want you to hear our voice. And we stand in strong support of the South Florida Water, strong support of the Southland Water Research Project, and we want you to know that, and we're here to tell you that today. We're excited about the financial opportunities to come in reference to the jobs. Our families are valuable, and we want you to know that today, and we stand in support of this project. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I'm speaking here today as part of the Friends of the Everglades. Many of you know me and my 4 decades of work across South Florida, covering the news of this community and of Miami. You face today and in the coming days, weeks, months, and years a generational decision. And with that comes the absolute necessity to make sure you've done all of the science, the independent science, surrounding this request. And if we're talking about a generational decision, what better place to start than with the woman who was a visionary about the Everglades, the river of grass? The opening words from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, "There are no other Everglades in the world." She talked about their sawgrass and water, the water we need to sustain us. She saw in her lifetime how all of us, in ways big and small, some bigger than others, how all of us put our own imprint across what was the historic Everglades. But she had faith, as she said throughout her book, and on page 385 at the end of her book, to her last day, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas believed keenly in this. Perhaps even in this last hour, in a new relation of usefulness and beauty, the vast, magnificent, subtle, and unique region of the Everglades may not be utterly lost. Last week, the Palm Beach County Commission, hastily in the minds of many, said, go ahead, we green light this project. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, nowhere in this book, ever envisioned sugar companies building a rock mine in the middle of the Everglades. Have we come to the point in Florida where we're so used to things going under the blade and the backhoe and the bulldozer that we don't question deeply whether we should do something, even though we may be able, from an engineering perspective, to make it happen? But should it? Why shouldn't the question be, what do we do to restore as best we can the natural splendor of the Glades? Projects exist to do more to send water south in a cleaner, more environmentally friendly way. To all of my friends out here in this community, and I'm looking at a few of them right now, why not environmentally sensitive projects that allow you all to be the gatekeepers of an ecosystem, a unique ecosystem in all the world that will provide ownership and entrepreneurial opportunities for you as the gatekeepers of one of the great ecotourism sites in the world? I'll close with this. We need to come to something like this knowing the science deeply and with great humility. I met a woman out west on a story once. She said to me, I said to her about a bumper sticker, we were in Glacier National Park, it's about saving the planet. She said, no, it's not. It's about saving the humans and having the humility to know that if we're not careful, The Everglades will go on, but we may not be around here to see that happen if we do not take great care of that promise. Thank you.
Next, we have Josh Greer, followed by Captain Mike Holliday and Mr. Robert Brooks.
I did something today that I don't usually do because I'm trying to keep my emotions in check. I actually wrote down what I was going to say. My name's Captain Josh Greer. I'm a fifth-generation native Gladesman from South Florida. I'm also a full-time fishing guide in Southwest Florida. As you know, Southwest Florida has been devastated the past few years by hurricanes. And this spring, we are finally able to get back to work. That being said, I find it extremely disheartening that I have to take a day off, lose $1,000, and drive over an hour to ask you guys to do the right thing. I can't help but feel like we are going back to the ways of the past. This feels a lot like 2018. Those of you in the room that were involved then know what I'm talking about. We all know that this isn't a water resource project. It's a rock mine, a hole in the ground with little storage capacity and no treatment component. If we wanted a real water resource project, we'd be building an 8,000-acre STA, not a rock mine. Also, the fact that a letter to Palm Beach County identifying this project was sent prematurely was foolish, especially when it's been reported that U.S. Sugar was the actual original author of that letter. Also, is there a guarantee that DOT will buy the aggregate from this site? And if this project is completed, will the water be public for public use? Especially being that we're going to be asked to pay for it. Thank you for your time, and I pray that you guys make the right choice.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Holliday. I'm a fishing guide from Stewart, and I look at this proposed project and see a lot of red flags. Among the potential threats are damage to the aquifer, contamination of the water supply, and interference with investments in Everglades restoration. I was at the Palm Beach County Commission meeting last week, and their staff said the district has already approved the project. They were firm in that belief, because the comp plan requires district approval before they can move forward. So if it's not approved, why hasn't somebody from either side picked up the phone and straightened this out? This is the kind of stuff that makes this project look sketchy. This is the stuff that causes the public to lose faith in the district's leadership on this project. You're supposed to protect us from miscommunications like this. Didn't these property owners rebuff every effort to swap this land so there could be more storage in the EAA reservoir not very long ago? They said there was no land available. Now suddenly there's 8,600 acres adjacent to the EAA reservoir for a water resources project. Make no mistake, this is a rock mine, and everybody in this room knows it's a rock mine. It's being proposed as a water resources project to game the system, yet it lacks the ability to clean water. And just as everyone knows, the next step is to use their political clout to get this rock mine taxpayer funded. And they do that by diverting funding away from Everglades restoration. So how can you guarantee this will not delay Everglades restoration? What is consistent about excavated mines is that they're not safe for water storage because contamination is likely, as is the likelihood that contaminated water will migrate away from the site and impact other areas. Contaminated water from farm runoff is already impacting our STAs. And as you know, the ground in that area is highly porous, tends to seep. This rock mine's 1,000 feet from the EAA reservoir, and any geologist will tell you the potential for seepage is highly likely. And no geologist will tell you there's zero chance this project will negatively impact the water supply. They can't predict the structural damage or the potential for toxic chemicals to seep into the aquifer or the potential to cause long-term structural damage to the aquifer. They can't predict if the mines will raise the salinity level. They can't because they just don't know. There's too many intangibles given the porous substrate to consistently predict that outcome. But what we do know is that any of these issues will require Palm Beach County to spend tens of millions of dollars to make their drinking water safe again. If you approve this project, you're basically rolling the dice with the South Florida water supply. What I ask is that you decline this. And lastly, for the people who are farmers, they're taking 8,600 acres of farmland out of the area. How are you going to farm a rock mine? Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Robert Brooks. First, I'd like to thank the mayor and the citizens of Belgrade for allowing me to come to their community and come to their house and speak. And I can tell you that you're always welcome in my house to speak, even if we don't agree with what we're here for. I'm here to speak strongly in strong opposition to the proposed rock mine next to the EAA reservoir site. This proposal defies common sense. The EAA reservoir is one of the most important Everglades restoration projects in our lifetime. It is designed to stop the damaging discharges to the Caloosahatchee, my backyard, and the St. Lucie estuaries, to clean water before it flows south and to restore the historic sheep flow the Everglades depends on. We've waited decades for this project, and just as we're on the verge of bringing it online, there was a proposal to dig a massive industrial mine right next to it. This is not just bad planning, it's a direct threat to everything this reservoir is built to accomplish. This isn't just an abstract issue for me. I've spent my career in the outdoor industry, an industry built around people's love for being outside, on the water, in nature. Even in retirement, the company I helped build still does millions and millions of dollars in sales to Florida retailers who depend on clean water, healthy ecosystems, and outdoor recreation. I moved to Florida because I wanted to live in a state surrounded by water, where the economy, the quality of life, and even our identity are deeply tied to how well we protect that water. Whether it's boating, fishing, tourism, or just the pride of living near clean, healthy ecosystems, it matters. Not just to me, but to millions of Floridians and visitors who support businesses, buy homes, and spend their time and money here because of the water. Putting a rock mine next to the EAA reservoir risks all of that. Mining isn't just disruptive at the foundation, blasting, dewatering. None of that belongs next to one of the most important water infrastructure projects in the state. Would we ever allow a rock mine next to a dam or a water treatment plant or a power plant? Of course not. Approving this mine sends the wrong message. That short-term industrial profit is more important than long-term public benefit, and that's not who we are. This is Florida. We are defined by our water, and we need to protect that investment, and we will preserve it. You have the authority, the responsibility to say no to this proposal, to stand up for smart water management, for public investment, and for the future of the Everglades. I please respectfully ask you to deny this project.
Next, we have Anthony DeJulian, Captain Daniel Andrews, and Captain Chris Whitman.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony DeJulian. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you to the people of Belglade for allowing us to be here in your community. I've made my home and life here in South Florida for the last 42 years. I'm a recognized expert and leader in the fishing and boating industries. My accomplishments are easily vetted, and my career speaks for itself. My livelihood and the livelihood of thousands of others depends on a healthy ecosystem and clean water. For the record, I want you to know that I have not been paid or incentivized by any special interest group to be here today. I have not been offered a free meal, transportation, or a political campaign donation to be here. In fact, I cut my vacation short by a full day to drive 12 hours from North Carolina back home to Florida yesterday in order to be here to have my voice heard. It is costing me time and money to be here, but I feel this issue is of the utmost importance to the future of the state I love and call home. I believe Everglades restoration is the single most important issue facing the future of Florida, and I have been involved in this fight for many years. I am concerned that the Southland mining project could jeopardize the integrity of the EAA reservoir and the overall efforts to restore the Everglades and sending clean water south. Moving forward with this mine could erase decades of work for Everglades restoration, and most importantly, directly goes against the wishes of the majority of citizens of the state of Florida. I am worried this mine sets precedent for further industrialization of the Everglades and all of our state and national parks. This would open the door for drilling and fracking for oil and gas. This mine would further threaten our drinking and bathing water, the boating, fishing, and tourism industries, a disaster for our state, economy, and the health of our citizens. I'm tired of the lies, corruption, and gaslighting. I'm tired of the destruction of our natural resources here in the state of Florida. It's a bad look for our state to approve of a project that could threaten the citizens directly, including thousands of water-dependent businesses that rely on clean water and a healthy ecosystem and the restoration of the Everglades. In closing, I urge the South Florida Water Management District to thoroughly review and complete your entire 7-step unsolicited proposal process. I also believe that the Army Corps of Engineers needs to determine what effect this could have on the construction and operation of the EA reservoir. We, the people, will not stand by any longer and watch the destruction of our resources. There will be consequences for those who choose to be on the wrong side of history. We will speak at the ballot box, and we will remove those who refuse to serve the best interests of we, the people. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Andrews from Captains for Clean Water. And I want to take a moment to just get us to look at this a little bit bigger picture here. As this process was going on, as this planning was happening for Southland, the landowners, U.S. Sugar and Florida Crystals, were in federal lawsuit that ended up getting appealed where they lost. South Florida Water Management District was an amicus partner in this, where they were essentially attempting to hijack the water supply out of that EAA reservoir, saying that they are owed that water supply. Why on earth are we considering a proposal with these same entities to build a reservoir with very vague details on who owns this water, what's going to happen with it? This makes no sense to a normal person. Only in bureaucracy does this make any sense at all. People are so fed up with the bureaucracies, so fed up with it. Why would we be considering this proposal without a very clear understanding of where the water goes? And these are the things. People are fed up with the lobbyists. They're fed up with the political consultants that concoct these ideas in back rooms and try to force them down the public's throat and then try to bilk potentially hundreds of millions of dollars to pay for this project. That is absolutely insane. That makes no sense to the average person. And people are mad about this. South Florida Water Management District, after the whole debacle about this letter and the lack of willingness to clarify what it meant, precipitously losing public trust over this issue, like I have never seen before. My ask to you is that you tell us, the taxpayer, who somehow is being told that we're going to pay for this, according to Southland's website, tell us what would happen, what would it cost to make this an STA? What would be the benefits, the reduction of discharges at the Caloosahatchee and St. Lucie, which desperately need them, if we make this project into an 8,600-acre STA? That's the kind of stuff that we expect out of South Florida Water Management District. We need to see alternatives. This whole process has been absolutely horrifying. It is embarrassing to be a Floridian seeing what's happening to this. This is the largest ecosystem restoration project, our Everglades restoration, that our nation has ever attempted to undertake. And everybody's looking at us. We need to be a leader in this. We need to show what real restoration looks like. We want to see the modeling before we even get going with this process. Show us what a real water resource project looks like. Show us what those benefits are. That is what we want to see. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Captain Chris Whitman from Captains for Clean Water. I think it's important to look back at the previous meetings where this topic has been brought up, concerns about this issue have been brought up, the way that the letter from the district was being utilized and taken out of context, that we explained and shared our concerns with that now we saw that in fact happened this past week at the Palm Beach County Commission. That letter was sold as this project was approved and had been approved by the district. The staff said it. The county commissioners there even went as far as to say that the South Florida Water Management District were waiting for them to initiate the process, that the South Florida Water Management District could not begin their process until Palm Beach County first took their action. They said it, it was under oath, we have it on video. That is not accurate, and that's not the case. Yet that is the message, and that was the implication of how they were interpreting that letter and the message around that letter. And it could have been solved very easily by some communication from the district to Palm Beach County to absolutely clarify where that was. The second thing that I would like to touch on is this is being sold as something that's going to deliver these benefits much faster than the rest of Everglades restoration, much faster than the EAA reservoir. But if you look at the timeline until this entire proposed project would be handed over, you're 35 plus years for this one project until it gets handed over to the state. That's longer than the entire timeline for the entire suite of SERP projects. That's not faster. That, in addition, this is being sold that it is necessary for this project to help to hydrate STA 5-6 via the Miami Canal. STA 5-6, the Miami Canal is already connected to Lake Okeechobee. The district is already in a process of seeking permit to connect the Miami Canal to STA 5-6. We can hydrate STA 5-6 without this project. Lastly, I would end with our decisions here and the way this moves forward is critical to the future of the EAA reservoir. At this point, the only people who have analyzed and done any modeling and engineering on this project is the applicant. Those Everglades restoration projects are engineered and designed by the Army Corps, by the Water Management District, not by the contractors that are operating the heavy equipment. And those projects, were they taken into account that there would be 40 years of blasting next to them when their engineering was designed? How do we know that this project does not threaten the integrity of the EAA reservoir? Would we approve this project if it was in the middle of downtown with skyscrapers all around it? Or would we be concerned that it would threaten the integrity of those skyscrapers? This is a very, very important decision. Thank you.
Next, we have Executive Director Gil Smart, Eve Samples, and Mark Perry.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Gil Smart. I'm Executive Director of Vote Water. We advocate for clean water by supporting strong policies and the elected leaders who champion them. We've got a number of serious concerns about the Southland proposal, which have been articulated by some other folks, but our number one concern is that we're doing it wrong. Instead of letting sound science and planning dictate the project, we're starting with a prepackaged project and fixing the planning around it. The applicant is right about one thing. We absolutely need more water storage south of Lake Okeechobee. We say this all the time. We've been saying it for years. But that storage must be strategically located, appropriately scaled, and effectively connected to adequate water treatment and the larger system. You can't simply dig a hole in the ground, label it a restoration project, and ask the district to rubber stamp it. But that's what's happening here, and why is it happening this way? Well, the land is owned by U.S. Sugar and Florida Crystals, and they want what they want, and they usually get what they want. Last week, Palm Beach County Commissioners voted unanimously in favor of the rock mine. We know that at least 5 of the 7 commissioners have taken campaign money from the sugar industry. We also know that in the first quarter of 2025 alone, sugar interests gave just under $700,000 at the state level in an off-election year. This money went to political leaders, parties, and PACs. The goal is to cultivate influence and generate political pressure to move projects like Southland along. And we know that Phillips and Jordan also gives prolifically. Since the beginning of 2024, they doled out just under $2 million at the state level. Where this money talks, sound science-based planning walks. And that's a problem. So while we respect the district's obligation to follow the state process for evaluating unsolicited proposals, restoration is not some slapdash project to be pursued on a piecemeal basis. It must be pursued as part of a coherent, integrated strategy. Sound science and planning must take precedence over profit. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Eve Samples, Executive Director at Friends of the Everglades. It is always an honor to be in the Glades communities. We represent supporters in the Glades communities. One of our board members was born and raised in Belle Glade, and I was honored to attend the Muck Bowl and the after party this year. That said, I have a number of concerns about the Southland project. Phillips and Jordan filed this application in partnership with Florida Crystals and U.S. Sugar for an unsolicited public-private partnership on July 1st. That was the same day a state law took effect allowing such unsolicited proposals to be considered. The new law says that corporations like Phillips and Jordan can land government deals without public bidding if they are determined to be in, quote, the public's interest. The law is very clear. They must, quote, benefit the public. That begs some questions today, and I appreciate Ms. Reynolds inviting us to ask questions that will be answered later. Number one, how can Southland be in the public interest when it does not include any stormwater treatment areas to clean the water it would store? Water storage is only one part of the equation. The Everglades don't benefit unless the water is clean to court-ordered phosphorus limits, and your existing STAs are struggling to do that with existing flows. Southland has no meaningful plan to clean the additional 120,000 acre-feet of water it proposes to store in a series of holes in the ground, just a proposal to connect to existing STAs that are needed for existing pollution. Number two, how does this project benefit the public when the promised 120,000 acre-feet of water storage will only be achieved after 4 decades of mining? That's not efficient. That's a lot slower than the construction timeline for legitimate Everglades restoration projects. The applicants say they're going to provide the first 20,000 acre-feet in less than 5 years. But guess what that amounts to on Lake Okeechobee? Less than 0.51 inches of water on the lake. That's laughable to those of us who have been on the receiving end of toxic discharges from the northern estuaries. Number three, why should anyone believe this project is in the public interest when it has been blemished by a lack of transparency? It was pushed forward in the shadows with a letter from the applicant on Christmas Eve and a response from Director Bartlett on New Year's Eve, and adding insult to injury, transparent discussion about the intent of that letter was silenced at your April 10th meeting. The public watched that unfold, and it sure didn't look like serving the public interest. This whole process marks a low point for the South Florida Water Management District and this governing board. You're being more accommodating to special interests than the public. It's a far cry from when you took your post 6 years ago. Please, if you proceed with this review, do it to SERP standards. Evaluate this project to the same degree of detail that you would any Everglades restoration project. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Mark Perry. Those of us who have been around for a long time know and intuitively that this is not a water resource project. We've been around water resource projects for many, many years trying to restore Everglades. In the late 1800s, this was all Everglades. All 700,000 acres south of the lake was Everglades. And we attempted to drain it and basically give it away for anybody who could drain it and make something out of it. And it turned into agriculture. In 1948, we designated it as the Everglades Agricultural Area. But then as it began, sending polluted water south, basically over 300, 400 parts per billion in phosphorus, we had to get treating it up and treating this water before it runs off. So every year we treat about 1 million acre feet of basin runoff from the EAA has to go through our stormwater treatment areas. We bought back some of the Everglades agricultural area back in 1996 and spent about $2.2 billion to build these stormwater treatment areas and $22 million a year to try to treat this basin runoff to get that water right moving south. Since the year 2000, We've done a lot. We've spent over $13.2 billion on Everglades restoration projects. Everglades restoration works, and we've been spending a lot of money in this particular area and about to spend a lot of money on this EA reservoir project, which is immediately adjacent to this proposed project here. It is not a water resource project. It's a rock mine. And I'm sorry, when I come into Belglade, and many times I've been over here, and many times I appreciate all this community here, but when you look at her soil is her fortune. These two landowners, U.S. Sugar and Okeelana corporations, have decided to make it her rock is her fortune. So you're turning the soil, which is the richest soil around, the most productive agricultural land, and now we're going to turn it in. It's not the Everglades agricultural area anymore. It's going to be an agricultural mining operation. It's going to be a mining operation, and they couch it for water resource project. Their own water analysis shows that those water tables are going to sit at about 9.25 feet. And that's not going to give them the whole water storage they're proposing at over 97,000 in the water analysis, but now it's proposed 120,000 acre feet of water storage in this reservoir. The reservoir portion, about 6,000 acres, is not going to store that amount of water they're proposing because the water table's already up and you can't compress the water deeper, and it's not going to store that water. And as effectively said, they don't have a way to treat that water. So this is a real problem. It's not a project. We don't support this project at all.
Next, we have Kelly Cox, Pastor Jamarius Bing, and Emily Fesser.
Thanks, Libby. All right, good afternoon. My name is Kelly Cox. I'm the Director of Everglades Policy with Audubon, Florida. And on behalf of Audubon, we've had a long-term presence here in the Everglades community as well, dating back to the 1930s with our first Audubon warden, Marvin Chandler, representing protections for birds on Lake Okeechobee. So we've, across the Everglades, have been working to protect birds in the places that they've needed for over 120 years. And today, I'm also expressing concerns on behalf of Audubon about the Southland project, particularly in light of the proximity of this project to the EA reservoir and the STA. These are two foundational SERP projects, and every inch of those projects has been so hard-won, publicly funded, and designed through a transparent, science-driven process with really robust stakeholder engagement. But this project, in contrast, hasn't gone through that same level of scrutiny. And that doesn't mean that it can't, but we would like to see it go through that robust level of involvement. And under state law, there are some really clear guidelines for how that is meant to proceed. So an unsolicited proposal for a qualifying project that goes outside of the competitive bidding process has to demonstrate clear public benefit. It has to undergo proper financial and engineering review, and it has to have meaningful public input. And that hasn't occurred to date. And that legal public interest test is not just a safeguard, it's a requirement. Especially when we're talking about things like groundwater impacts and water quality implications in interactions with billion-dollar Everglades restoration investments of your taxpayer dollars. So this is really important, and in the absence of a detailed environmental assessment, the independent scientific review we're talking about, and robust public engagement, it's really hard to determine whether or not this is in the public interest at this stage. So on behalf of Audubon, Florida, we're asking the district to really engage in this thoughtfully and thoroughly and in line with statutory requirements before key decisions are made. And what does that involve? That means a full environmental impact analysis with alternatives. That means taking a look at conveyance capacity, water chemistry, porosity, transmissivity, depth considerations. That means taking a look at independent scientific evaluation, meaningful public involvement at every single step of the process. One public hearing, this is the first one the district has had, is not sufficient. The Everglades is a globally significant ecosystem, and the district is its most critical steward alongside the Army Corps of Engineers, and we ask that you use your authority to ensure that restoration progress is not undermined, to ensure that this project is compatible with regional infrastructure as is required under statute before the next public hearing is scheduled. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak here today. My name is Emily, and I'm speaking today on behalf of Florida Keepers and many residents who care deeply about protecting our Everglades, water quality, and well-being. I understand it feels like some of us are coming from outside of this community to voice our opinion, but South Florida belongs to all of us, and we should all have an input in this decision. I am here because I'm gravely concerned about the Southland Water Resource Project in the Everglades. I feel this proposal lacks safeguards to prevent environmental harm and offers no meaningful assurances that it will support Everglades restoration. And I have some questions. What legal guarantees ensure these lands will be returned to the state? Has FDOT expressed a specific need for this mined aggregate? Is it truly the best offer? How much taxpayer money is tied to this project in the long run? I understand there are 7 conditions for this project to continue. However, it is unclear who will be responsible if water quality falls below acceptable drinking water standards. What will the cleanup process look like? If the first cells have already been turned over to the county, will the county be responsible even when surrounding cells are still being mined? And finally, is it wise to allow mining next to the EAA reservoir and less than a mile from the Rottenberg Wildlife Management Area? Thank you.
Pastor Jamarius Bing.
Pastor Jamarius Bing of Mount Calvary First Baptist Church also represents Glades Ministerial Alliance as the vice president, where we represent and we serve with approximately 25 to 26 churches in the area. Just like to say it is saddened and it does not amaze me that when we have a chance for opportunity, when you have a chance for growth and prosperity, we always have large gatherings, tearing something down before it transpires, before it takes place. There will be a lot of rules as we see, as we can read. There's a lot of channels, there's a lot of steps that has to take. So instead of us tearing something down, let's give it a chance. We like individuals to give us a chance, so let's give someone else a chance. To improve things in our community, to better our community. This will bring 100 and something jobs to our community. That will help our law enforcement. That will cut down crime. That will cut down violence, because people won't have to do harsh things. They'll be able to provide for the families. They will be able to give and lend a helping hand. We are all in this together, no matter what. So let us give it a chance. So as the vice president and also on behalf of the entire Gamma, we stand in line with the mayor of South Bay, Belglade, and Pahokee, which is in support of the Southland project. Thank you.
Next, we have Keely Weiger, followed by Lavita Holmes and Carlos Rivera.
Good afternoon. My name is Keely Weicker. I'm the Director of Engagement and Outreach with the Everglades Foundation. Our organization has been engaged on the EAA reservoir on all levels over the past decade, from design, authorization, funding, and construction. Our CEO, Eric Eichenberg, has submitted a letter today to the board outlining our concerns about the proposed project's risks, and I ask that this letter here be entered into the record as a part of our comments. Thank you for providing the opportunity for us to make comment, and we appreciate the time that staff will put into evaluating this proposed project.
Lavita Holmes. I've spoken already, but okay. That's okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carl Severa. I'm an upcoming senior at the Clusen High School, and I'm honored here to be speaking on behalf of the Clusen FFA chapter, a group of young leaders who are passionate about agriculture, our community, and the future of Florida. Oh, sorry, guys. Here's what makes Southland important. It's not a mine. It's built using safe, tested methods just like other Everglades projects. It's legal and public, meeting all safety rules that have been set by the state and our county. It supports farming. The land that is being utilized stays in production till construction. It creates about 100 to 140 full-time positions, which will support our local economy. As an FFA member and a proud advocate of agriculture, I see this project as a powerful example how farming and conservation can work hand in hand. It's a solution being built on responsibility, innovation, and a deep respect for Florida's natural beauty. As a young agriculturalist, it is my duty to support forward-thinking projects like this, because Southland isn't just about water. It's about doing right for our environment, our economy, and the future of Florida. Thank you.
Next, we have Alexis Henry, Madison Atkinson, and Garrett Stratton.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexis Henry. I am currently an FFA officer at the Clusen FFA chapter. And the Southland Water Resource Project is a powerful step forward for Florida's environmental future. Designed to support Everglades restoration, it enhances water storage while allowing active farming to continue during phase construction. With a low-impact, environmentally responsible design and the creation of over 100 well-paying jobs, the project shows how thoughtful planning can balance agriculture, ecology, and community growth, all while delivering cleaner water south to the Everglades. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Madison Atkinson. I recently graduated from Clusen High School, and I'm excited to begin studying agricultural communications and business. Growing up in a community deeply rooted in agriculture, I've made it my mission to learn what is so important about the industry, not just to us locally, but everywhere. Agriculture gives us the food we eat, the clothes we wear, and even the makeup that I put on this morning. But it's not just about farming. Agriculture is also about protecting the natural resources we all depend on, especially water. Everyone needs clean water to survive, and I know I wouldn't want to drink anything unsafe. Would you? Farmers are often blamed for not doing enough to protect water, but the truth is, we are doing our part. And the Southland Water Project is a good example of that. Yes, it stores and treats water, a process that takes 5 to 10 years, just like many other water projects across the country. But what makes this one special is we are able to continue our farmland throughout the process. Southland helps meet Florida Senate Bill 10's goal of 360,000 acre-feet of water storage south of Lake Okeechobee. We're taking some of the least productive farmlands from the southern part of the region, and creating a long-term water storage solution in the process. As someone stepping into the agriculture industry, I believe this project is a smart and responsible use of land. It supports our community, protects our water, and shows us that agriculture can be part of the solution. Thank you.
Garrett Stratton. Next, we have Jessica Namath, followed by Brielle Martinez and Caitlin Black.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jessica Namath. I am an unpaid, unincentivized Palm Beach County resident of almost 40 years that chose to drive an hour and a half here today because of my concern for Everglades restoration and water. As someone that works in the field of public relations, projects and decisions like these never cease to amaze me. If this project is as beneficial as the applicant's presentation makes it sound, why on earth would you go about it this way? The only thing I can surmise is that the wheels were put in motion on this before the state parks debacle last summer that triggered the movement we've seen building over the past year. That movement is not Floridians against job creation or Floridians trying to step on other communities' toes. It's Floridians against threats to our environment. People care, they're paying attention, and they're not only paying attention, but as you saw with the Iguana River land swap, they know what to do. And we've seen huge projects stopped in the past year. Folds of Honor, Cabot Citrus Farms, the Uplands, and now Southland. So why set yourself up for such skepticism and criticism? Why are we rushing? Where is the science and where is the transparency? You know, there were wonderful questions asked today that I look forward to hearing the answers to. And again, I would urge you to pause the wheels, stop the wheels. Let's stop the train from, careening down the track and continuing. Let's work together as communities. Let's wait for the science and put a project together that is to the benefit of Floridians and to Everglades restoration, because those are things, of course, we're all interested in. But the way that this is being handled and that we're going about it makes us lose faith in our decision makers and our elected officials. So please, please rethink this project. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Brielle Martinez, grandniece to board member Carlos Charlie Martinez. And as a South Floridian and young student, I understand the many benefits of this project. But I implore you to think critically as you review this project. Considering the fragility of Florida's ecosystem in the face of urban sprawl and risks of saltwater intrusion, there is no room for rushing into projects. As people move to our state, undue stress is placed on the Biscayne Aquifer, and the livelihood of South Florida and the greater Everglades system are put under more stress. This project is something that should continue to be further reviewed by parties such as the Army Corps of Engineers before this decision is made. I implore you, for the health of South Florida, to require stricter regulations on this project to best meet SERP standards. The lack of treatment for this project is deeply concerning. If water quality begins to decline, this project must be halted. I come here the day after my high school graduation from Terra Environmental Research Institute because we cannot afford to harm our groundwater. Thank you.
Go ahead, Garrett, sorry.
Matakiape, my relatives. I don't stand here as a protester to come shout at you. I stand here as a scientist trying to find some understanding. When I see things like we must work together to develop solutions to restore the health and sustainability of the Everglades, that's how we destroyed the Everglades, is rich businessmen deciding how they were going to store and move water with zero science to back it up. Me being from a very poor community, indigenous community, I really feel for this situation because I've watched them use us like this too. And it makes me sad when I see like the stand up for our jobs shirts. I'm not putting you down. I just wish people actually cared about giving you guys jobs. I don't know who's paying for all this, if the millions of dollars is coming from the taxpayers or from the company, but I'd be all about taking those millions of dollars and just giving it to this community for community business development programs so you can start your own businesses instead of just working for some other guy. But I've watched us do that in our communities, and to take power again, because in reality, we weren't standing up for our jobs, we were just standing up for rich men getting richer on our backs and our sweat. But I understand that, and I'm not here to disrespect anyone. Absolutely, I'm not talking down. Just like you'll see, I'm not one to talk down to either. Yeah. But as a scientist, I have to help defend the Everglades. And When I come out of my house in the Everglades, I feel the Everglades. You know, I've heard this community say the Everglades community. I see the community, but I don't see the Everglades anymore. It's gone. It was allowed to be destroyed by rich businessmen. And now instead of bringing it back, we want to destroy it even more. So as a scientist, I'd like to see some more data. You know, and I'd like to know who's paying for it, because if it's the taxpayers, as a taxpayer in Palm Beach County, I'd be more for just this business development program and actually look out for the community instead of just giving scraps like my community's given. Matakiase.
Caitlin Black.
I'm going to let you do this part. Thank you. Hello, Belglade. My name is Caitlin. I'm here on behalf of Florida Keepers. We're a newer organization that we really focus on helping smaller communities hold their elected officials accountable for what they ran on, for what they stand for, and making sure that as they are in their office position, that they actually hold true to their word. I had a plan for what I was coming here to say today. This binder is full of the paper trail I could find to try and understand how this whole project came together. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I was late and I got out here to the door, and no one rushed me into the room. No one was quick to get me to sign up where they were going to cut me off from speaking. They wanted to say, how was the drive here? How's my daughter? Did we make it here okay? And I can't say that that is the quality of acceptance that I have been met with in any other speaking platform in regards to coming into a community and sharing thoughts. So thank you for that, Belglade. I want to deviate from my plan, because the one thing that I am hearing here and that I'm realizing is that in all of these pages of research, there is not one public input from what you guys thought about this Southland project until we got here today. None of the research has included what happens to your community outside of the jobs that they're offering you. What happens next? Quick look into limestone mining while I'm sitting back here waiting for my turn to talk, and you are exposed to health risks beyond what I can give you, because I am not a scientist and I am not a doctor, so I'm not going to go there. But it was quick to find it. And so I'm curious, when Southland first proposed this project, my first document goes back to 2023. October of 2023. When did they first come to you? When did they ask you what you thought about this? Did anyone bring up the public health part of this? Because with those jobs, I hope they're offering you amazing health benefit packages that have no deductible. Because 20 years down the road, 40 years down the road, when this project is maybe hopefully finished and functional and actually maybe a water restoration reservoir, whatever they want to call it, project, where is the health of this population going to be? Because it's a scar on the land that you will never be able to take back. Putting an STA there, that's one thing. Putting a SERP certified project, that's one thing. The process they have to go through to vet it for public health is exceptional. This is not. So please, because of how kind you've been to me today, please watch your backs on who is selling this to you, because it's not me. And it's not anyone in this room speaking on behalf of the Everglades. Thank you.
The last three speaker cards that I have are Caitlin Newcamp, Julie McCormick, and Matt DePaulis. If you would like to speak, we have additional speaker cards at the table at the front.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for letting me come here to speak today. My name is Caitlin, and I'm representing Audubon, Florida. We have been advocating for the Everglades for over 100 years, over 120 years, and we just want to come up here and explain that we do have serious concerns about the project, and we do think it needs to be evaluated more closely. I don't want to belabor the points that were already said, but especially the proximity to the STA and the EAA reservoir that we've spent so much of our taxpayer investments on. We really just need a much deeper, more rigorous evaluation before any approval of this project is granted. That's what we're asking for. We're not saying it's not a viable project. It could be, but we definitely need to look at it much more closely. Some of the questions that we have are, what are the water controls that will be in, or water quality controls that will be in place? What's the porosity of the rock? Is there a water control plan? Where is the water coming from, and will it impact the EAA reservoir water? How will seepage loss be controlled? There are just a lot of unanswered questions. Thus, we believe it's premature to call this a water resource project at this point. It's definitely more of a mining project. So we're asking for more comprehensive studies assessing the impacts of groundwater, surface water, hydrology, and ecology. And we want this review process to be very transparent to everyone involved, all of the community members, all the stakeholders. And we also want to just make sure that water quality is being looked at. It's not enough to simply store water. We know that in the Everglades. We need to make sure it's clean water. So maintaining water quality is vital. And so we just urge the delay of any approvals before we get a thorough scientific review, both from the district and from the Army Corps. There just simply is not enough information to classify this as a viable water resource project. So we ask the agencies to enhance their transparency as they move forward and just apply rigorous scrutiny. It definitely needs that. Thank you.
Is it good? Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Julie McCormack. I am a resident here in Belle Glade. I've had farms in the area out here for several years, and I am also a member of Florida Keepers. And I'm here to respectfully urge you to not designate the Southland Rock Mine as a water resource project and to stop the building of this mine. At face value, this proposal claims to offer long-term water storage. But we must ask, what kind of water storage do Floridians really need? After 20 years of industrial excavation, we may gain a deep pit that can hold water, but not release it south to the Everglades without significant and costly stormwater treatment infrastructure. The water in the region is already far too nutrient rich. Without new STAs, this reservoir would be a holding tank, not a tool for restoration. Meanwhile, wetlands, natural, proven filtration systems can be built now. They don't require decades of rock mining or induce environmental risk. They clean water, they store it, they support biodiversity and restore flow to the Everglades in a way no mine pit ever could, and provide those jobs. And the concern here is not simply environmental, it's precedent. Once we label strip mines as water projects, we open the floodgates for speculative land value spikes across the EAA. Lands that were once attainable for restoration could become financially out of reach, forever altering the trajectory of Everglades restoration. This proposal was initiated through a private, unsolicited P3 pitch, submitted days after a new law went into effect, and backed by significant political contributions. A letter central to this process originated not from your agency, but from a draft written by a U.S. sugar executive and handed to your director. That raises serious questions about process integrity and public trust. Let's also not forget the human impact. Limestone mining brings silica dust, truck traffic, noise, and long-term health concerns to nearby communities, often rural and undeserved, like Belle Glade. It fragments habitats, lowers air quality, and disrupts wildlife corridors. Quote, chronic overexposure to respirable crystalline silica may lead to scoliosis, which creates irreversible and progressive deterioration once the dust has been deposited in the lung tissue. Historically, mining has been one of the highest risk industries for worker exposure to crystalline silica dust, end quote, and that's from stacks.cdc.gov. Silica dust has also been proven to cause cancer by the globally harmonized system, which assesses substances cancer risk. The public is not asking for a mine disguised as a water project. The public is asking for wetlands, for clean water, for ecological restoration, not excavation. Our health is worth more than 50 jobs.
I urge you to uphold the spirit of your mission and deny this designation. Thank you, and thank you for hearing me out through the extra time.
Matt DePalis, the Environmental Policy Director of the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation. We out on Sanibel and Captiva are at the receiving end of a lot of these projects. We're the catcher's mitt of the Caloosahatchee, so we see the ramifications of a lot of the short-term decision-making skills that have gone on in this state and are trying to solve those solutions now. And I'm here today along like most of the people in this room because there's a lot of unanswered questions, and we've heard a lot of them. First and foremost, I think that it's clear that the district needs to ask questions about how they're defining identified projects and how the rest of the state governments are interpreting what an identified project letter is and if it's a viable identified project or not, because I think that would have cleared up a lot of the conversations we were having last week at the governing board meeting. But also just going through the unsolicited proposal criteria while I was listening to all of these great speakers before me, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions that the district really needs to look into. Clearly, number 3, cost effectiveness and financing of the plan is leaving some questions about when the taxpayer dollars are going to start being spent and how much the taxpayer is going to be on the hook for managing this project once it's actually up and running. The feasibility and implementation has a lot of unanswered questions. How is this going to impact surrounding communities? How is this going to impact the EAA reservoir? How is this going to impact Everglades restoration writ large? But I think really this project has yet to answer the public need or benefit, the number 1 criteria for this unsolicited bid evaluation. Why do we need a water storage project right now when we don't have the treatment that we need for the projects that are already coming online? How is this going to help Everglades restoration? And does anyone in the room really think it's a coincidence that this project was born 7 months after the sugar industry saw that they weren't going to get access to the EAA reservoir after losing their lawsuit against the Army Corps? We're sitting here as the result of many short-sighted decisions that have said, let's do this action now and we'll deal with the consequences later. Whether it's let's pave over these wetlands and put development here and deal with the consequences of the storm surge and the water filtration that we no longer have later. Let's dump the pollution in the water and deal with the red tide later once we can figure out engineering some solution. Let's drain the entire southern half of Florida so that we can turn it into agriculture and get rid of the Everglades. And here we're all sitting in that room because we have identified as a state that that was a short-sighted decision, and now we're trying to rectify it. This should not be a case of passing on future solutions to future generations while we try to reap short-term profits, disguising mining activities as water resources that are not asked or needed under the current configuration of the Everglades Restoration Project. I think the number 1 question I've heard here today, and I just want to reiterate, is why is this happening so quickly? Why are we trying to push this project through when there's so many unanswered questions, when the science isn't there? Why is this being done in the dead of night over Christmas vacation when people can't evaluate it? And when are these answers going to come? Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, I'm Lisa Interlandi with the Everglades Law Center. I really think that what happened last week at Palm Beach County, we really got the cart put up in front of the horse, because Palm Beach County has already approved this project, and there's nothing in the county's conditions that actually require the South Florida Water Management District to approve the project. They do have a reporting requirement that requires a report on the status update of any agreement that is ultimately developed with the Water Management District, but unfortunately the applicant submitted conditions that sought to eliminate the Water Management District, and the ultimate conditions approved only require, like I said, reporting to the Water Management District. Nothing actually, we tried to get those conditions in and the county did not consider them. So just so you know, there's nothing, I feel like, we're basically at this point trying to shut the barn door after the horse got out, but it would have been helpful to clarify that before the county actually approved the project. So I think that one thing, I keep hearing about the jobs, and I think that that would be really great, but I don't know if folks are considering the number of jobs that are actually going to be lost by the loss of 8,000 acres of agricultural land. Because agricultural land produces a ton of jobs, and that's everything that this community has relied on for so many years. And so now a lot of those jobs are going to be lost because they're converting it to another use. Maybe some jobs will be remade, but maybe it's a wash. Maybe not worth supporting something based on that. I think it's also really important to identify the water source for this project. Obviously, there's not a lot of excess water in this basin that isn't accounted for already. We just had a huge fight over that with the EAA reservoir project in court, so I think it's pretty important to identify that. I think it's also really important to compare the timing of the storage availability with traditional storage means, above ground storage means, because the EAA reservoir project is going to be moving forward with a greater amount of storage than this in a more expeditious manner. So that's also really important to consider. I'd also ask that you consider the cost per acre foot when compared to traditional storage measures. You have a good model, which is the C51 reservoir project, which is not something that has gotten any opposition. Many of the same groups that are involved in this project are involved in that project. Folks are not opposing this project because it's a sugar industry or because it's in the Glades. It's because it's right next to the EAA reservoir, which is a $4 billion public investment, and that's why people are super concerned about that. So I would just urge you to compare the C51 appropriations that has gotten over the last few years based on the amount of acre feet of storage that the phase 2 cells will produce, and compare that with the cost of the EAA reservoir project to determine whether or not this is actually valuable. And then, last thing I would just say, we have always asked, to consider the highest and best use when property comes out of sugar production. What would be the highest and best use of that land? Is more storage the highest and best use, or is water quality treatment the highest and best use? The district knows that more water quality treatment is needed in order to meet its water quality goals. That timing is coming up right now, and without more storage, we're gonna have a really hard time with that. The very last point I wanna make is that, I wish I could have one more second, which is that a resubmittal of this project is being, in the letter, April 29th letter, it says they're resubmitting by August, the end of August. I hope that you will have another meeting like this before you guys do your evaluation and let us comment on the final submitted proposal, because it's really impossible to evaluate on the criteria that you guys identified based on the proposal that's been submitted today. There's so much more information needed. So I hope that you guys will continue to engage the public as it goes forward. Thank you guys so much.
That was my last public comment card.
I want to thank everyone for coming. I really appreciate all of your comments. One thing I forgot to mention is that although we did not record this on video, although I think some of our partners have, we did make an audio recording, and we will make that available on our website. It'll probably take us a couple of days to get it up on the website, but that will be available along with the slides and the handouts that were provided at this meeting. As far as next steps go, I don't want you to leave the room wondering what happens next. This is the first unsolicited proposal that the district is working through. So this is a new process for us. We have provided an opportunity in accordance with the statute for the proposer to submit to us a revised and complete proposal. In our letter to them, they have until August 27th to provide that revised and complete proposal. If they provide it sooner, we can start the evaluation sooner. And so right now we're in a space where we don't know exactly how the next steps are going to play out in terms of the time compared to the next steps. So that's why I can't give you an exact timeline. I did mention earlier that we will accept for 30 days additional public comment on what information you already have and what things you want us to consider. Obviously, some of the comments have to do with that timeline and how we're moving forward. We will communicate what the next steps are, the information that we're receiving, and what additional public comment opportunities and public meetings will be available. There will be at least 2 more public meetings, one where we will provide a discussion of our evaluation, and one that will go to our governing board for a determination of the public interest. Those are required by statute, so those are coming. Associated with both of those, there will be opportunities for public comment. What I heard today is a desire from the public to have another opportunity for public comment associated with a full and complete proposal. And so I'll take that back to our leadership, and as we're developing this timeline and thinking about how we implement our process, we'll take a look at that. And so we'll provide information about that on our website and keep that timeline updated. With that, again, I'd like to thank the Glades communities for hosting us. It was a pleasure to be here. If you didn't have an opportunity to take a look at their museum, it's excellent and really has a lot of interesting and valuable information about these communities. I'd encourage you to take a look on your way out, and thank you again for being here.